Excellent. I should disclaim the fact I'm not speaking on behalf of Deloitte or indeed the Charles Institute of Taxation, although I have connections with both, because it's hard. This is a really complicated subject. It's hard to have definitive views from either organisation around all of this. I'm also a tax person, not a lawyer. I love the way a lawyer argues the fact we should still be able to litigate loads. But, there we are. My practice doesn't depend on litigation, so I'm going to go for a definitive test. But I do think I want to start by saying I just don't believe that even if this is a £16 billion problem, especially if it's a £16 billion problem, as I think Helen Miller explained this morning, we are just not capable of reaching that equality of treatment that I think Helen was arguing for. I cannot contemplate a roadmap that gets us from here to nirvana where 16 billion is taken out of the economy in the form of tax in that sort of manner. And if you can, that's great, stand for election, but good luck, because I don't think you're going to be elected on that sort of part. And I don't think that's just whether we've got a rather strange-looking government at the moment. I think any government would have struggled with increases of that size on, 15% of the workforce, which is what I think I heard this morning it properly is. So for me, shoring up the boundaries is absolutely important. I think I do like the idea of a statutory test. Those who work through the test of statutory residence, are you a resident of the United Kingdom or are you not, will be aware of the fact that there are a range of factors in there. There are things that you weight. It's a complex to operate test, but when you've eventually gone through all the hoops, you do end up with an answer. And that, to be fair, is what we ultimately ask our courts, of course, to interpret through all of this. But it'd be so much easier if the vast bulk of this could be dealt with through a statutory test of employment or self-employment. I don't really mind which you find easiest to go for. It's fair to debate the elements of Anders' matrix. I love the substitution point in particular, which is always fake. Any contract that has a right of substitution, it's completely fake. Because why else would it exist when you're contracting for the appointed Bill Dodwell services that, suddenly his brother turns up? It's not so likely, I would say. But, let us debate sensibly those facts. And it took, I think, 3 years to come up with the statutory residence test. So let's not underestimate the scale of that particular challenge. The other thing I think we've finally got to tackle is the menace of IR35. And I approach it a different way from Ipsy and Andy. For me, the menace is that we had it in the first place because all it did was push people into corporate form. Because what happened is the engager offloaded the responsibility. And so for me, we have to make the private sector engagers take responsibility for determining the type of work. Is it employment or a self-employment category? We need to get to that sort of answer. And if, our Parliament decides that all doctors, all nurses are just going to be employees, well, that's fine. We need some sort of some better way of dealing with it. And I finally think we need to look at the issue of freelancer companies. They are simply a means for planning, avoidance, paying less tax. There is no ifs and buts about it. All that junk, I only do it to preserve limited liability. It's just garbage. They are there 99.999% of the time there because you reduce your tax liability. And they're also there today because they offload the risk from the engager. And that is a really critical point, of course. I wasn't around in policy making at the time IR35 came about. No doubt there'll be somebody who does know why, but I can't imagine why the government of the day thought it was a brilliant move to introduce that. So I'd like to see us look hard at a forcible look-through of freelancer companies. And that would get rid of all this, spouse splitting that Helen referred to this morning, the idea that you can smooth your income between particular tax years, just so that you get the benefit, the appropriate rates, and so on.
who can blame anyone for doing that? Because that's what the law is at the moment. And lots of people do it, so you can't criticise anyone for doing that. But it's not a sensible system. And that's why I think we need to look hard at that. So my final plea is I do think that we need to recognise that the marketplace does benefit from flexibility. And again, I'm very conscious of the statistic that showed our wage growth has been poor, but I'm equally conscious of the statistic that shows that UK employment and UK unemployment are both substantially better than the figures in all the continental European economies. And for me, that's a really important point to bear in mind from all of this. And we just have to make sure that we don't lose sight of that while shoring up the boundaries and preventing, as I think Karon said, unscrupulous employers pushing people inappropriately into quasi-self-employment.